What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Sunday League Screamers podcast. I'm your host of today's show, Steve McCutcheon, along with my one co-host, Vito Anazelli.
How's it going, Steve?
What's up? What's up, man? We have another great show for you guys today, but before we get started, please take a second, hit the bell, subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you guys get your podcasts. Also follow us on Twitter at the SL Screamers_pod. Before we get started, we're continuing our mini series today, the Hooligan Half Hour, and where we interview Premier League fan bases on this side of the Atlantic. So without further ado, we want to welcome Jacob Holton of the Cincinnati Toffees.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Pretty good. Thanks for taking some time out of your day, Jacob, to talk with us.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime anyone asks me to talk about Everton, I could sit there and talk for hours and hours and hours. So 30 minutes, I mean, you know.
It was funny. We saw your pinned tweet on Twitter at the top. It's from like 2019 about it. And it was like, wow, this guy's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
But dude, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Just so you know how you started supporting Everton, describe the, everything about that kind of stuff.
For the club.
God, I love telling this story. I love telling this story. I love talking about how I got into Everton Football Club because, the Premier League, usually in the United States, it's all about those top six clubs. It's always about Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, and Tottenham. It's always about those six clubs, So when you find somebody who's like, I support Everton, it's kind of interesting. So it goes back to 2014. I watched the World Cup, and you know how the United States just got super into the World Cup that season. Mm-hmm. I believe that was when we went out against Belgium and Tim Howard made like 1 million saves. And
was it 15 or something? I think it was
Secretary of Defense.
They could have won that game, which is a huge bummer. But
we don't got to talk about the one the last game. We blacked that out a long time ago in our minds.
Yeah. So I got done with that World Cup and it was just like, wow, I need more soccer. Like that was amazing. So I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, so the Premier League is readily available. And I knew a guy who's a Manchester United supporter and I'm like, hey, I kind of want to get into the Premier League. And he's like, okay, cool. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to sit down, you're going to watch a couple matches here and there. I want you to go and I want you to look at every team who's in the Premier League this year. This was a 14-15 season. And he's like, I want you to just dive in, do some research. He's like, if you got a PlayStation or something, buy FIFA, play FIFA a little bit.
That's how it happens.
And so I'm starting to do my research and I'm like, I don't know anything. So I'm like, I'm looking at all these clubs and I'm watching clubs play. And the very first game I watched was Leicester City against Everton. And that was Leicester City's first game back in the Premier League after I don't know how long. And Everton played them and it was a really good match. And I was like, man, that was really cool. And I was watching for a couple weeks and then I was like, okay, I got it down to two. I was down to Arsenal and I was down to Everton. And I'm like,
good choice.
And I'm like weighing the options, and I'm like, there was nothing that happened that was significant, but I'm like, man, you know what? I'm gonna go with Everton because it's just something about watching them. Mm-hmm. I think there was something about maybe Goodison Park and how that is, and how much it's just kind of like a really tight pitch, and it's really old, and it's got that classic old school style, and back in those days, under Roberto Martinez, they were playing some really attractive football, so. I got lucky and I got chosen, and now I'm a supporter of the greatest football club in the entire world, and they have tortured my soul ever since.
That's really cool, and that's pretty refreshing to hear. I mean, most times you hear about people, picking up a club to support. It's usually through a friend, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to support the same team as them," or you have family that supports someone. So you're like a rare case. You went out and you found a club that you loved, and you're like, "This is who I want." And you had to pick at the litter there and went Everton. So that's pretty refreshing.
Yeah, did your boy force Man U on you at all, or he was kind of open to kind of just
no? So basically, he was like, "Don't be a Liverpool fan," and I'm like, "Okay."
You went the exact opposite of
Liverpool. The exact opposite. No, he was really cool about it. He wasn't like pressuring me to be a Manchester United supporter. He was like, obviously, I like Manchester United, so like if you do that, that's really cool. We can, be cool over that, but I'm like, yeah. So, but it was awesome. It was a really fun experience, and I'm so happy with my choice. Not only just to be an Everton supporter, but just being a Premier League supporter, because the Premier League is so fun to watch every weekend.
In your time since you've been an Everton supporter, what's been some of your favorite memories of the club?
So there have been a lot of bad times since I've been a supporter of Everton Football Club. So before I came in, David Moyes had a really long run of being the manager, and then he went to Manchester United a couple years before I came in, and they brought in Roberto Martinez from Wigan after he got relegated, but he won the FA Cup with Wigan, and then
Yeah, such a weird story that year. That was
yeah,
great
it was
year.
really strange. And he was playing some really attractive football, and they were doing some great things. And then they sack Roberto Martinez, and then they go to Ronald Koeman. Yeah, Ronald Koeman, and then he was terrible. And then they go to Marcus Silva, and he was terrible. And then they go to Sam Allardyce, and I always want to forget about Sam Allardyce ever being associated with Everton Football Club. And in between there's David Unsworth is a caretaker manager, and then you get Carlo Ancelotti comes in, and you're like, oh my God, our club is back. We're going back to the top. And then he's like, psych, I'm going back to Real Madrid after a season. And then we're just kind of left here with our jaw open. And then Rafa Benitez comes in, and he's had a good start, but like it's been mostly rough, but there have been some just dynamite games. There's the 4-0 drubbing of Manchester City at home, which was amazing. There was a 3-1 or 4-1 victory against Chelsea at Goodison Park, where Stephen Naismith scored a natural hat trick, which was amazing. There was a 4-0 victory on Easter against Manchester United. I think it was 2 seasons ago. That was awesome. And then this past season, I mean, we finally broke the streak of not beating Liverpool forever and won 2-0 at Anfield, which that was really special. That
20-something years, right, in the making for that.
Yeah, it was like 20 something years, and like to be able to experience that, and I was just bummed out because there were no away supporters, and that would have been huge. That would have been so huge. But there have been some really good times too. Made a FA Cup semifinal against Manchester United, could have won that match, lost late on. They made a deep cup run into the Carabao Cup. I think last year, I think they made it to the quarterfinals and lost. But there have been some really, really fun times to go along with, some of the dreary stuff, like not having a manager for more than a year and a half.
I mean, touching upon the manager situation and stuff, obviously just you already covered, losing Ancelotti and how that felt for you guys. How did the fan base, especially like maybe like the Cincinnati Toffees, how did you guys react when Benitez came in, and obviously being an ex-Liverpool manager, won a Champions League and an FA Cup with them?
It was kind of split. I talked to a lot of the people from the Cincinnati Toffee supporters, and they're pretty much behind the club. Like whatever Everton wants to do, we'll get behind the manager. He's our manager. It doesn't matter what he did in the past. I have a group text of people from Ohio that I'm in, and that was more split. We had a lot of people who was like, he's past it. He hasn't done anything in a long time. We had a lot of people who were like, he's a top manager and he wants to be here. And I don't know if you guys saw any of this stuff that happened in Liverpool, but Everton supporters in Liverpool were mostly unhappy about this hire, and there were banners being left outside of Goodison Park, and people didn't want him in there. So it was a very divisive hire. Personally, I was really on the fence about it because I'm like, he does have a pedigree of winning, but he hasn't won in a long time. So I'm like, but at the same time, him getting all that stick and still wanting to come here and prove that he still has it and wants to win kind of won me over. And so far he's proved that he knows what this club is about and what these supporters want.
That's cool. Cause as a Chelsea supporter, when Jose Mourinho, even for all of the problems he gave my club, when he went to Manchester United, it was also like a split feeling seeing him over there. So I definitely understand, the feeling behind that, but that's great to hear you guys got behind him. I mean, he's done a pretty fantastic job since he got there. What are your thoughts on where you guys sit in the table right now and the performances you've seen?
So it's completely different from what we saw under Carlo Ancelotti, where there were some really excellent performances. We came out of the gate hot and won like the first 7 matches on a bounce. in all competitions, which was really cool. And James Rodriguez was playing like a man on fire. And we got an Everton specific song to the number one song on iTunes in the UK, which was hilarious. It was just a weird time. It was just a really weird time. But that honeymoon phase ended really quickly. And it was just a kind of a slog after Christmas was over. It was kind of downhill. But Rafa Benitez has kind of come in, and this team looks way different. The fitness levels are through the roof, which is something Rafa Benitez is kind of known for. He's kind of been known as a manager who really wants
always shifts it up. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants his players to have a high fitness level. And he's come in, and everyone, even players who we might have wanted out this summer who didn't leave, like Andre Gomez is one of those players, and he's gotten a lot more out of Andre Gomez than Carlo Ancelotti ever did, which has been nice. It's been refreshing. Obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a hot start, 3 goals in all 3 matches that he played in, but he was hurt. The style of play is a lot different. They're moving the ball a lot quicker than they were under Carlo Ancelotti. It's all about one-touch passes and moving the ball out wide and getting crosses into the box. And it's just been really refreshing. And he's gotten attention to detail, and he's coaching the entire match. And it's just fun. It's just nice to have a manager who obviously knows what Everton supporters want, and he lives in the city, so he's kind of a part of it. So I've been really impressed. There have been a couple of tactical mishaps, but usually he's, flexible enough to change it when he sees that it's not working, which is awesome.
Yeah, you really can't ask for much more out of a manager. We lived through Maurizio Sarri a couple seasons ago and just watched a 4-3-3 no matter what. His live or die, and it was just some days.
The old Sarri ball.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was cool. It was cool when it worked. But when everyone figured it out, it's just like, all right, but I don't know, maybe change it once.
You mentioned a lot of the players that are performing well. I mean, looking at the transfer business you guys have done this year, I mean, you have to say it's been some of the best in the Premier League all year. I mean, you got Damari Gray for maybe $1.5 million, and he's been fantastic. Andrew Townsend was a free. You got Asmir Begovic on a free, and Solomon Rondon. I mean, you guys talk about bang for your buck. It's been a lot of really good additions, and players have been performing. Do you think you could have done anything else in the transfer window, or you think they kind of got it spot on?
Okay, so this was a really a difficult transfer window because we had
a sustainability and issue.
Yeah, so financial fair play has been an issue because in the past Everton have really misfired on a lot of their transfers, especially since I've been here. In the season before I believe it was the 17-18, no, it was the 16-17 season, we sold Romelu Lukaku. We sold Romelu Lukaku that summer and brought in Davy Klaassen. We bought Wayne Rooney back, and we had Gylfi Sigurdsson come in for £45 million. We bought 3 number 10s. We bought Sandro Ramirez, who was a number 9 who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And that summer has really tanked Everton since. I mean, they have spent since then, but it's financial fair play has hamstrung us this summer, but the business has been brilliant. I mean, my God, we brought in 3 players, and 2 of them have been essential to every single win we've had this season in Andros Townsend and Damari Gray. Damari Gray, my word, he looks like
a man possessed right now.
I mean, good God, where did he come from? Like, I know he came from Bayern Leverkusen, and he wasn't that great out there. He obviously struggled at Leicester City. He wasn't anything to write home about there, but I think he's kind of a case of, he's like the reverse Ademola Lookman. So Ademola Lookman was a young player who Everton brought in from Sheffield United a couple years back, and he was like young man, 20, maybe 21 years old, and he had a hot start and he had all the skills it looked like, but he never really clicked on. We sold him off to, I don't remember where, and then he got loaned out and then purchased by Leicester City, and now he kind of looks like he's maybe turned his career around a little bit. And Damari Gray is kind of the same way. It's kind of interesting because we always expect young players to kick on right away, and if they don't kick on right away, then they're not any good and they need to be sold and they need to find their level. But I think that's not always the case. Sometimes they need a change of scenery. Sometimes they just need to season their game a little bit more. Sometimes it's coaching. Sometimes maybe they just need to find the right manager and the right system. And I think that all of the puzzle pieces kind of came together for Damari Gray. He found a manager who wants his players to have a high work rate. He found a fan base that really gets behind their players as long as they're giving 110% every single time they're on the pitch. And he's in a system where he's allowed to kind of roam, where he's on the left most of the time, but he can cut inside and he can make deep runs into the box and kind of just play his game. So but that's been great. And Andros Townsend, nobody really expected much. We expected him to kind of be depth and play every once in a while, but he's been outstanding. His crosses have been great. He scored probably the goal of the season already.
Yeah.
So it's nothing crazy, and it couldn't be anything crazy until we got rid of James Rodriguez, which we finally did at the end of the window. At the very end of
the window.
Yeah. As our window was closed a long time, and then he goes to Qatar. So it's been fun though. I'm really digging these guys, and Asmir Begovic he's decent. He had a really bad cup match, but I got to see him play in Florida this summer during the preseason. So, but I like everyone, and I like the business that they did, and I hope they can make a few more signings in January to just kind of build the depth up a little bit.
Yeah, I was actually taking a look at the sign. I wanted to just see how much you guys lost and trimmed off on the wages. It was actually an incredible number. So you got rid of Walcott he was on the books for about 80,000. James just now was 90. Bernard was another 65,000, and Balassi was 70,000. I mean, Balassi was probably a big miss on you guys, about 30 million, loaned him about every year pretty much, and then sold him for, I don't even know if it was for free or whatever it was. But you guys trimmed off 305,000 roughly in just weekly wages and over so that's like 15 million for the year. You really can't ask for much more especially when you're tied up a little bit financially, and then bringing in guys, maybe paying out not even close to half of that. So right then and there, that's already a big bonus, especially going into January. You never know if you are able to get a couple more signings depending on, where you're at in the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what else? Out of curiosity, like, where do you see the club, I guess, kind of going in your eyes over the next, 2-3 years or so?
So they've started building their new stadium at Bramley Moore Docks, which is awesome, and it's going to be a huge deal, not only for Everton Football Club, but for the city of Liverpool itself. It's going to bring in, they're going to build up that area that has been desolate for many, many, many years, and really needs a tune-up, and that stadium is going to bring a lot to the city of Liverpool, and it's going to bring a lot to Everton Football Club. That's going to be a state-of-the-art stadium. It's going to be one of the best in the entire Premier League, and will be for a really long time. The team-wise, we're kind of up in the air in terms of what the vision is. It's a big discussion between Everton supporters on Twitter and in my group text of the Ohio Toffees. We're always discussing, like, where are we going to go? So some people want to just cut our losses and buy young, exciting players and try to go in that route. And some people want to do the mix of young players and veteran players, which I think is the right way to go. But we also need to sort out the academy, which has been a huge disappointment since our director of football, Marcel Brands, has come in. He was kind of well known for building up academies and creating academy players and moving them into the first team or selling them for big money. And that hasn't happened yet. And so if we can get the youth system sorted out, where we can get U23 players out on loan faster and get them a pathway into the first team if they're good enough, that will help this side exponentially, because we won't have to dip into the transfer window as much as we have been and going out and buying super expensive players on high wages and giving guys their last payday. So if we can get the youth system sorted out, by the time they're in Bramley Moore Dock in 3 seasons from now, this should be a perennial, maybe top 6 side, close to that every single season.
It's a bold statement. I like it.
It is, but you know what?
Tottenham's Arsenal, that's for sure.
Right now, I would say that Everton are on course to be a better team than Arsenal in 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that Arsenal have a lot of young players and they have a young core that's really talented, but if you don't have a manager or a vision to see those players into where they're going to go, if you're going to just trust Mikel Arteta as much as, I like Mikel Arteta because he's kind of a cult Everton legend, but like it seems like Everton, if they can get their shit together, can go places, especially in that new stadium. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that actually leads me into what I was going to ask you next. This season for me, watching the league, it has a very similar feel for how Everton performed at the beginning of last year, where they were flying high. They were top of the league for a little while, if I remember correctly, until injuries and things like that started to take hold. Where do you see Everton finishing or maybe ending up this season? Because I mean, as nice as it is to, hope for that top 6 position within the next 3 years, I guess the future really starts now,
This season is I'll be okay with like 9th. I want them to finish in the top half. Obviously, they finished even on points with, I think, 8th place last year. They just lost out on goal differential. But they had 59 points, and 59 points literally never finishes in 12th place. So a bit unlucky last year. This year, I'm expecting a little bit less than that. The home form is going to kick up way higher than it did last year, where they only won like 4 games at home all season last season under Carlo. And that has already proven to be one of Everton's strong suits this season, where they've won all 3 games at home and they've won pretty comfortably. This season, I'm expecting 9th, 10th. On the high end, I would expect we're not going to get any higher than 7th. Like, the drop off will come when we play teams like Manchester. We play Manchester United this weekend, so we'll see. I think that's going to be a good test of where are we. Are we good enough to kind of compete? And it's on the road too, so it's away from home. So are we good enough to compete for a higher top table finish? Not top 6 or anything like that, but or are we just going to kind of dabble at 8 to 10 area? I'm hoping and praying that we get like 9th. That'd be great.
It's definitely a good time to be playing United right now. They seem to be having their own issues. So best of luck. That's going to be a good game. I can't wait to watch that. Unfortunately, it's 4:30 in the AM my time, so I'm going to have to figure that one out somehow.
Yeah, just stay up the night before.
I usually try. That's what I had to do that for Chelsea City last week, and I was like, my alarm went off at 4:30. I was like, this sucks.
He's probably still drunk, honestly.
I was the only way.
Yeah, that's rough.
What time zone is Ohio? You guys,
we're Eastern. We're
Eastern.
Yeah, Where we are, we're
far over.
So I live in Cincinnati, which is southwest corner of Ohio. I went down to Bowling Green, Kentucky, which is like south central portions of Kentucky, and that's central time zone. So it's like right
on the border, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Gotcha. What where do you guys do you have like a spot where everyone meets up from the Ohio or Cincinnati Toffees? Do you have like a bar that you guys go to?
So we do it in Cincinnati. We're really, really lucky. In Cincinnati, we have a bar, and we basically have our own bartender every weekend. So we go to Dana Gardens. It is it's like right down the road from the campus of Xavier University. And our bartender Pierce opens up pretty much every weekend. If it's not Pierce, somebody else usually kicks in and helps us out. And there's a good solid 8 to 10 of us who are core members who are pretty much there every single weekend. And then there's, everyone else who can get there whenever they can, due to, they got family, they got work, they got all this other stuff going on. But like, we got a good group, and we've gotten really close, and I really enjoy hanging out with everyone who goes to the bar. I like meeting new people every time there's a new person who comes in. There are sometimes enemy fans there. Like when we lost to Villa, there was a Villa supporter there, and that was pretty rough, which was weird. We've never had a Villa supporter there, and of course, like the one time there is, we get smoked 3-0. Yeah, so that was rough. But yeah, every weekend, Dana Gardens, and except this weekend, we are going to give our bartender a weekend off because it's a 7:30 kickoff, and I think he's got to work on Friday night. So we're just gonna we're just gonna stay at home and brew our own coffee and pour our own beers.
Nothing like an 8 a.m. beer for a game.
Yes, that's right. Always a Guinness. Always.
Always a Guinness. Yep. That's all I drink when I go out here to the bar. So
oh my God.
We spoke a lot about, how well Everton are doing and how a lot of players are really performing and showing in the results and showing where you guys sitting in the tables. What do you think it still needs to be improved on? Where can the little tweaks come from right now?
Tactically they're doing okay. But sometimes there's been more than a few times where Rafa just doesn't get the formation right, doesn't get the players right from the kickoff. And it's just kind of, they get off to a slow start, and that hasn't haunted them yet, really. But when you go up against higher powered teams and you can't get your system going until 25 minutes in the match, you're always going to be down a goal, and that's no good for anybody. So I'd say the main thing has been he's gotten it wrong a couple of times, a handful of times, and we're getting off to slower starts. We're not really hitting the ground running against all these teams, and especially against a team like Norwich. I would have expected us to put it on them pretty early, and they dominated the game throughout the match, and it was a pretty easy win, but they didn't really kick on right away. So need to get out to a faster start and really need to focus and get that formation right the first time.
Yeah, well, like you said, at least it's good he's making the adjustments mid-game.
Yeah,
that's kind of where it counts, right?
Absolutely.
What is there any information or news that kind of how the players are reacting to Rafa? Because I know he typically has a much more stern demeanor. I know like Gerardo always said he was one of the hardest guys to play for because they felt like he never pleased them. Is there anything about that, like with the players?
It is really interesting to see how they react to Rafa Benitez. A lot of them are singing his praises, where Andros Townsend has obviously worked with him before, and he's loving being back under him. Damari Gray has sung his praises, that he's really pushing him to be the best player that he can be. And I don't really think Damari Gray has had that anywhere, where he's been pushed as, hey, I expect something from you, go out and show me you can do it. And he's doing it, and I think all the players have reacted well. Abdoulaye Doucouré has benefited greatly from Rafa Benitez. He is on fire,
Yeah.
and he looks amazing. Alan, who came for Carlo Ancelotti, decided to stick around, and he looks like he's off to an amazing start. I just think everyone has reacted really well so far. I'm really interested to see how it goes for the entire season. If those players can keep that intensity and keep that going throughout the season. But right now, everyone seems to have bought in 100% to whatever Rafa Benitez is preaching.
Yeah,
Gotcha,
Doucouré is like a man possessed out there right now. I remember watching that. Who did you play? You won 4-1, I believe. You had like a
3-1. Yeah, 3-3. Oh yeah. It was
Burnley. Was
Burnley.
it Burnley?
Burnley. It was 3-0. Yeah, 3-0 victory against Burnley.
I want to say Doucouré had 2 of those assists as well there in that game.
Yeah.
He was just I was watching him run around. I was like, oh my God, this guy is everywhere right now.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah, I thought Rafa said he wanted like five or more goals out of him throughout the entire year too. I'm pretty sure he came out.
He's producing early,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. The early returns are now, good. Yeah.
Gotta get ahead of it too.
Yep.
What out of curiosity, Jacob, what else do you got to kind of add to Everton before we wrap up here?
So they're gonna get into a tougher stretch here. They're going to be hopefully getting Richarlison back this weekend. He's been training, and it looks like he might be back for Manchester United, which would be a huge boost. They play Manchester United, and then they play West Ham right after the break. So a couple of tough matches here. I really want to see how they're going to do against these high-powered teams like Manchester United and even West Ham. West Ham have the 4th most shots on target in the entire Premier League this season. And, Mikel Antonio's a big problem. Saeed Benrahma has really kicked on, and Souček he's a great but I just really want to see how they're going to do against these better teams and see if they can keep up if I just want to see what the measuring stick is right now, because it's been a great start, and there have been, there was a bad loss to QPR in the cup match, but that was the B team, the most B team that we could have possibly put out there. And, and they didn't play, they played pretty horrible, but, I haven't seen Everton really make hardly any deep cup runs since I've been a supporter. So it was really nothing new for me, but I just want to see them. I want to see them show this same fight against Manchester United this weekend. Really.
Big match.
Ben Rama as a break. We had our show, and every week he scores and gets an assist. He was my breakout player of the year for the campaign. And I love rubbing in both these guys' face every single time.
You got lucky once.
Nah. We saw that one coming. So thank you.
Oh,
all right.
Man.
Thanks, Jake. And for anyone listening, you can check out the descriptions if you want to learn a little bit more about the Cincinnati Toffees, and check out their social media handles. It sounds like a fantastic place to be. If I'm ever in Cincinnati, I'll be sure to stop by, catch a Guinness too while I'm at it.
That's right.
Where else can they find more about you, Jake?
Real quick before I plug myself, seriously, if you guys are an away supporter, and if you're ever passing through Cincinnati on a match day and your club is playing, pop in. Like, we'll be friendly, especially me. I'll buy you a drink. We'll have a breakfast sandwich, and I'll shove it in your face whenever you beat your team.
I'm sold.
I will definitely be there.
So I am on Instagram and Twitter. I never remember what my Twitter handle is. My Instagram my Instagram handle is really easy. I got really lucky. It's just Jake Holton, like Jake Holton, Holton, and that's it. You can find me on Instagram super easily. Twitter handle is Jake Holton 12, JakeHolton 12. Too much talking.
Well, if they're not able to remember that, it's going to be in the description and in the comments and everything. So they'll just have to click on it, and we'll have you all linked up there.
Excellent.
Be sure to check out Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else to add, boys?
No, it was fantastic.
No, cool. Let's just get 3 points this weekend and let's just get the international break on and get Dominic Calvert-Lewin back after the international break.
Get him firing again.
Do you follow the U.S. team a lot or no?
The U.S. men's national team?
Yeah.
Yeah, every once in a while. I wanted to go. So they're playing Mexico in Cincinnati in November.
The prices are ridiculous.
They're astronomical. I got so mad when I saw the prices. I'm like, I actually wanted to go to this game, and I can't because I'd have to sell a kidney, and I don't want to sell a kidney. So.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
But yeah, now that the talent is getting back in there, I'm kind of keeping an eye on World Cup qualifiers. I am slightly worried at their chances of qualifying, to be honest with you. From what I saw from those first 3 matches, I wasn't super impressed. So they're gonna have to be better the second time around, and they're playing some weaker opponents in this second round of qualifying matches. So hopefully they can kick on.
Yeah, I think we're all a little bit little thrown off by that first win. We were all kind of hoping for at least 7 points minimum, only to have 5, and just the performances were lackluster in the first 2 games. So granted, the last one was a great comeback, and kind of hopefully maybe that spurs everything. But then you throw in the injury concerns that we have. I know Reyna is almost not isn't supposed to be. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll do it for this episode of the Sunday League Screamers podcast and the Hooligan Half Hour. Take a moment to check out the description for our links and social media platforms and give us a follow. Check out Jacob, the Cincinnati Toffees as well. I'm your host, Steve, with Vito and Jacob. We're signing off.
Thanks, Jacob. Appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks, guys.